Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Great Awakening. So, today I want to start out with something more of a warning that I feel like people need to hear. The people who, especially, are not close to God, people who are not spiritual or awakened, or they have not been saved, mostly people who are what you would consider lost in the world because they have either denied Christ or they believe they don't need God. Well, this is a warning for those people that you better get ready because the end is very near. And I would say by 2030, people are everything is gonna be turned upside down. Quick story, something happened today. I was watching a video, and there's a girl that I watch on there, and she's always talking about how bad things are in the world and the economy and how people are barely making it. And I had replied to her message because I felt like, she was right on point. Well, people started to try to argue in the comment section. So I left a message. I had tagged her in and said, I support you in what you're doing because you're telling the truth. You're speaking out, because I think a lot of people are just blind to the fact that in one day things could turn around. That's great and wonderful if they're doing fine financially and they know how to budget their money, but that doesn't mean they'll always have their money. We're headed into a cashless society. All these big data centers that they're putting in, that is not what you think it is. That is for the mark of the beast, which is going to be run, and I'd say it's already starting now, but it's going to get worse as we head towards 2030. And we're going to start seeing a whole lot of control being put in place, especially when they start trying to put chips in people in their hands and their brain, which is basically people are going to be either forced to take the mark of the beast or die, basically. So I think a lot of people are not awake enough to understand that we are that close. We are just a few years away. And if you are spiritual or a Christian, I would say the rapture is coming very soon. And if not next year, I would say it's very, very soon. So if your heart's not ready, if you're one of those people who have put off being spiritual or being a Christian because you were having your fun, well, now's the time to quit. Now's the time to give up all the sin and all the things and come to Christ, because we're right on the doorstep of Christ returning. And a lot of these people are just asleep in the world, and they love their lives, they love their money, they love their big house and their fancy cars and all their pretty trinkets and everything that they order and buy because they're materialistic people. But I'm telling you right now, all that stuff will be burned up in the end. All of your stuff that you think is great and wonderful, it's going to get burned up, because when the end comes, you cannot take anything with you. Hopefully you will be raptured to heaven, like I will be, because I'm a Christian, I'm a believer in Christ. But the people who are left behind, they're going to be the ones that have to go through all of the terrible 7 years of tribulation when the Antichrist appears, and they will have to die a martyr. If they're left behind and they were not saved, they will have to choose, God or to be able to eat and provide for their families. So that's going to be a very tough time for people that are saying right now that they don't believe or they're not worried about God's return, because it's very soon. So people need to wake up. Like I said, this video is a warning. I love people and I want to help you, but if you are not prepared, you're going to go through a very hard time. If you come to Christ and you get saved, then you can know that you'll be spared of all of that turmoil that will happen in the end. And we are right on the doorstep of that happening. So I pray for all of you to come to Christ, because we're getting into some very scary times. You guys know I'm telling you the truth, because you turn on your favorite social media platform and all you hear about is AI, robots, automation, mass layoffs, AI's coming for jobs. Pretty much if you sit at a computer, AI will take your job. Robots, automation. I work at Amazon. I'm here right now, sitting waiting to go in. One of these days, I understand that one of these days my job will be taken by a robot. So I have to prepare too. It's not just you guys, but everyone has to prepare that they're coming for us. They're going to take our lives away. I mean, even our money is not safe. The Rothschilds, they own the central banks. Literally one person or a family owns all of your money. Every bit of the banks and your money that's in it can be taken overnight. All they have to do is close it down. So nobody's money is safe. Nobody's lives are safe at this point. Surveillance between now and 2030 will be completely surveyed or whatever you call it. So we'll be watched 100% of the day. Everything you do online is being watched and documented. They know your lives. Everything has an algorithm. Every app you use, every single thing that you are involved with is being watched. So just be prepared that I'd say in the next 4 years, between now and 2030, you need to be prepared that you're going to see a lot of major things happening. And then not to mention we're at a war and the cost of living is outrageous. People are about to lose everything. Like I said, the girl that made that video, she's talking about how people are struggling. People can't make it right now. Everybody's just robbing Peter to pay Paul and, living paycheck to paycheck. And, that's basically where I am right now. But at the same time, I know I'm not alone. Many people are working 40 hours a week like I do and overtime, and they're still not able to provide for their families, or they're struggling, especially if you have child support, and that makes it even harder. I do that. I have child support. Makes it even harder to survive because you're running on less money, If a quarter of your paycheck's going to someone else, then you're living on a thread, So I feel for those people, and that's why I'm making this video, to warn people that, you need to prepare, get your hearts right for God, and be ready, because we're right here at the end of time, So I love you guys. Just please, feel free to watch my other videos. I talk about a whole bunch of other topics that, are warnings as well, things that you need to be aware of. But just be prepared to know that in the next 4 years, your whole life could be turned upside down. You could lose your job. You could lose all your money. You could go bankrupt. You could be laid off. I don't know what everybody does, but I mean, everybody has a different job, of course. But, like if you're a plumber or something, you may be okay. Because, I mean, something like that, I don't see a robot or AI taking, of course. That's a given. But if you're sitting at a desk at home doing a job that is something that a computer can do or AI will be able to do, like calculations and things like that, data entry, even graphics design, which is scary. My brother's a graphics designer, and I fear for him. Nobody is safe. If you sit at home at a desk and you're on a computer, there's a very good chance, I would say 99% chance, you will lose your job. So just be prepared, to change fields or look into something else that you can do. Do your research and check what kind of jobs will AI not be able to do. That's what you need to get into. And it may be not a job you're at home, or it may be a job you have to go do physical work. But just remember, there's mass layoffs. Facebook, look at, I can't tell you how many. It's 20, 30,000 people, I believe. And then not long ago, Amazon had laid off all those corporate jobs, which is terrible. What is that company? Oracle or something like that? They just laid off, I don't know if it was last year or early this year. I think it was a few months ago, actually. But they laid off a ton of people. I think it was another 20 or 30,000 people. So These were all office jobs. These are all people that did work probably from home or on their computers. So just be aware of that. That's the one that I would worry the most about. If you do any kind of job that you were skilled for, but you're working from home or at a desk or a cubicle or in an office space where you're on a computer all day, that's the jobs that I'd be worried about. So anyways, love you guys. I hope you guys are doing well, but please just be prepared. This is a warning to everyone. Get your heart right. Jesus is coming back soon. If you're not saved, get saved. I've got videos on that. Will help you as well. So please feel free to go through my feed and check into other things that might help you. But just be prepared. Love you guys. God bless you.